I'm Bill Pearis, an editor at Brooklyn Vegan, and you are listening to BV Interviews, which features conversations with some of our favorite artists. This week, we've got an interview with the Darkness's Justin Hawkins from the Brooklyn Vegan archives that has never been used on this podcast. I talked to Justin in early 2025 as the Darkness were getting ready to release their 8th album, Dreams on Toast. Justin and I talked about the new album and how it's the Darkness's most varied record to date. We also discussed guitar solos, how he can still hit all those notes 2 decades on, his Justin Hawkins Rides Again YouTube channel, and more. If you've watched that YouTube channel, you know he's a very thoughtful, funny guy, and I only wish I could have gotten to talk to him longer. Hope you enjoyed this one. Here's my 2025 conversation with Justin Hawkins. So, Dreams on Toast, your 8th album with the Darkness, and your first one in 4 years. 2 things have happened, to my knowledge, since Motorheart. You started your YouTube channel, and 2, you did your Permission to Land tour.
That's right.
Anniversary tour. I was wondering if and how both of those things may have affected this record.
Yeah, okay. Well, Motorheart was the record that we recorded during the COVID pandemic. So all of my contributions were submitted having been recorded in a different country to the rest of the guys. I don't think there's only like, my favorite song on that record is Welcome to Glasgow. And that was the only one where we were all in the same room in a socially distanced and responsibly conducted way to do that one. Travel was difficult, so we weren't really, it was quite freeing in some ways because I was able to just do exactly what I thought should be the thing and then send it off and then pretend that my phone wasn't working when they had some notes or complaints about my performances or ideas or anything. But this one, and I think this plays into the other aspect of it, like we missed an album cycle really because we did that 20th anniversary touring. But what we did was we made sure that at every point that we could, whenever we had like a little window of a week or so, we would go somewhere exotic, the 4 of us together, and actually write together, as opposed to me top-lining backing tracks from my brother or whatever, So we had longer to spend on the writing, so probably spent 2.5 years on this record, really. We did it all in the same room. So it makes a huge difference, I think. Sounds like a band, even though we're sort of exploring ambitious arrangements and stuff like that on Dreams on Toast. It's the 4 of us working together. I think sometimes I do ambitious arrangements and then I spend hours and hours building up all these sort of backing vocal parts and recording endlessly, and then they just go, no, I don't like that. So like shit. And then so I kind of I wanted to avoid that really. And it's just more fun, it's much more fun.
Well, I was also wondering, like with the launch of your YouTube channel, you're listening to a lot more new music. I'm assuming. Did that come into play at all? Do you think with your songwriting? I'm more aware of modern music than I used to be, and most of the time it's because my producer sort of urges me to listen to things, and I'm obliged to react to stuff that I would never normally see on my radar, really. And I don't know how much influence that's had with. Because most of the time when I hear something, I try and avoid copying it. Right. So it might actually be more limiting, because there's sort of, I'm aware of more stuff that I've got to try and dodge, Because if I've covered something and then I release something that sounds a bit like it, we all know where I heard it. Yeah.
And the evidence is there. So I think I've always had that thing of just a lot of the time the sort of analytical ear. I'm usually listening for echoes of stuff and trying to work out where they drew influence from, So I suppose it's just helped to expand my mental database, or the songs that are in the mind palace that I can try and not sound like when I'm writing my own stuff.
Would it be fair to say that this is the most varied Darkness record to date? Like you've got like pure pop songs, you've got a country song, there's Hot on My Tail, whatever that is.
Yeah, what is that? That's like folk country, but with some, I don't know some sci-fi stuff going on in there. I don't know, really. I'm not sure what that is.
Do you agree that this is more of a record than normal?
Definitely. I think what we normally do, and this is something that one of the differences about this album is like, what we normally do is we write a song and we might do it acoustically or on a piano or something. And then when it comes to arranging it to make it sound like a Darkness song, or so we can record it in a format that our audience understands and, is expecting from us, we'd normally chase a key where I'm just absolutely screeching in the chorus, or, like it's right at the desperate part of my mid-range where the break is, and just, not because it's enjoyable to sing that way, quite the opposite, it's more, there's just something of my affectation and the thing that makes my voice unique that we think our audience wants. And I desperately asked the guys on this one, can we not chase the key? Just let me be a singer. Let me have the song and try and emote across my range. I've got like 5 octaves or something. I can handle this. Just let me use different parts. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's become quite varied, is because like if I'm singing something and it's low, like for the verses of Cold Hearted Woman, for example, it wouldn't be apt to accompany a voice like that with just huge guitars and stuff. You need to think differently about how to present that song, I think. So yeah, it probably is more varied just because we didn't do the key chasing exercise that we normally do.
I see. It almost feels like, to me at least, I mean, there's of course like lots of, signature Darkness riffs and solos and that sort of stuff here, but it almost feels like songcraft feels like more to the forward than some of the other things this time around. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think we've been very discerning in the way we've rejected a lot of things that would normally make it, I think, And it's the first record where I've kind of like, I've agreed with, well, it's not a case of agreeing. It's like the 4 of us fight for every note, It's difficult to do that when you're not in the same room for a start, and sometimes things get away from you. And if I'm not fully invested in the process, I often find myself at the end of an album going, I need to do another album of my own stuff, even if it's just for me, just because there's something unsatisfying about stuff that you haven't fought for, or arguments that you've lost. But I think when you do it, and you do it from the sort of artsy place and the crafty place, when you're thinking about what is the best thing for the song, and you listen and you audition every idea, and then stuff hits you and you feel it in a different way, it's just work, it's busy work, and you have to go through that process to really get the good stuff, I think. And you can all feel it when you hit it. So I think it really is just because we put more effort in. We've always been capable of writing songs that have that craft element to it. It just takes trial and error, years of it to get it right, I think. Maybe that's why first albums are always better than second and third, or often better than second and third, because you have had that, you're auditioning stuff, not just for the other people in the band, but for a small collection of people that are attending your early gigs, and you can feel stuff out, and it's not really about the reaction from the crowd. It's about how you feel when you play it, and you recognize when something's the right thing. I think you don't have the same process and structures available to you on the second record when you've had a hit first one. You're much more kind of, you have to try and guess what's going to feel good, and especially back then, I think when people actually bought records, because like to audition new material would be the same as leaking it. It would be as devastating to your chart position as leaking, which was a big thing back then,
Right.
And it was happening to everybody. But now, of course, leaking isn't a thing. You've just got to, you can drop stuff on the socials, and it doesn't really make much difference, So.
Right. Yeah. I think The Longest Kiss is an especially impressive bit of pop songcraft. You fit so much into 2 minutes and 51 seconds.
Thanks. It's funny because the verse, the chorus was something that me and my brother wrote middle of the night in Cornwall at Roger Taylor's piano. It was such a strange environment to do stuff in, but we're lucky because we've got all these glamorous locations that we can go and do stuff in. But the verse was actually, the melody and the chords were lifted from like a musical that I wrote in the 90s.
Oh,
which never, I never realized the musical, but it was a musical about the collapse of the Lowestoft fishing industry, which was called The Collapse of the Lowestoft Fishing Industry.
Oh.
And so the verse of that used to be, you grease your fingers and I must say, those oily palms of yours look younger every day. And it was about one of the characters, the main character in the musical, had lost his larynx to throat cancer and had to belch all these big show tunes for a voice box thing. So I thought that would be the angle for it. And his wife was a hand model, so it's all about like the preparations that she has to make her hands look nice. And
Wow.
that's where I got the verse from. So it's actually been around, melodically, parts of that song have been around since 30 years, I suppose.
I can't believe that didn't make it to the West End.
I know, it should have been at least off Broadway. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Maybe I'll come back to that, but I'll have to transplant something else into that verse now. The chorus remains, which is still strong in my view, but
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of piano on this record. You said that you were working around Roger Taylor's piano on this.
Yeah, there's been a few pianos involved actually, but yeah, I think I like playing piano on stuff because it's not natural for me. I've started to get a little bit posher now, and I'm finding, the addition of ninths makes it sound like I know what I'm doing, but I don't actually. And a lot of the time, it can just sound like a guy with boxing gloves on. And I've always been a big fan of sort of synth rock and stuff like that. So you just write in a different way when it's an unfamiliar instrument, and you find things that you wouldn't perhaps have considered at other times, So the chorus of the Longest Kiss was like, I don't know if it makes as much sense on a guitar really, but when you sort of, I just made some incremental adjustments to my fingers without thinking about what the musical consequences would be. And then you find stuff by doing that. And then you just got to get the muscle memory to make it work. And have my brother there to translate it into actual music is really handy.
Have you figured out like how you're going to do that live?
Yes, this is going to be the first lot of touring. Well, we know that
you did a little bit at like in stores, right? Last year.
Yeah. So like the keyboard parts are, to a real musician, they're probably quite rudimentary. So we have a real musician whose job it used to be to tune my guitars. So he's now going to sort of do some additional guitar for when the stuff is really complicated, and he'll play keyboard on the bits where you really can't live without it. And I think Longest Kiss is one of those numbers really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and his name is Ian Norfolk. He's really accomplished, and actually I think some of his background is musical theatre.
Oh, okay.
So he's ideal really for that sort of thing.
What can you tell me about the album cover? I've only seen like the digital version's not that big. It's Frankie and is it Rufus who's also on the cover? It's got an 80s thing. Why don't you just tell me what the concept is here?
Okay, so we did a shoot. And we did some sort of ensemble shoots with the whole band, and that photograph was one of the ones that sort of came out of that. We did that last May with Simon Emmett, and when we were sort of talking about making the album, we wanted something that sort of resembled, like that Heaven 17 kind of business guys, 80s stuff, and when I was looking at it, I was kind of like, okay, so me and my brother, obviously we look great because it's all good. But I thought, well, rather than have like the whole band on, why don't we just treat Rufus and Frankie as actors and then have it as more like a Sparks thing? Because I think there's a different dynamic when there's two individuals there's a different energy, and the way those two were interacting was they were winning the photograph anyway, and I think my brother and I were just superfluous in that image. So I was like, I don't mind if I'm not on the album cover. I think if the album cover's better without us on it, then we should go for it. And my brother was in agreement. Took a bit of convincing across the board, especially label-wise and stuff. It is a strange thing to not have the whole band on, but we fought for it, and I think that was the right call, actually. Perry Schall designed it, and he's a Grammy-nominated illustrator and designer of album arts and things, and he's a good friend, so we wanted to just try something different this time. We actually tried a few different ways to few different new logo types for the Darkness, but the classic one out in the end, so it isn't completely unfamiliar. Perry is the guy. he's a genius.
For the vinyl, is it a what's on the back, or is it a gatefold, or I
can't remember what's on the back actually. I have seen it all, but honestly, I've been snowed under with everything that we have to do to prepare for this. So to be honest, I haven't looked at it properly.
All right,
But
fair enough.
yeah.
I got to ask about Walking Through Fire. I'm sure it's at least drawn a little bit from personal experience over the last 15 or 20 years, but it also kind of feels like a period piece to me, like written from the perspective of like an 80s rock band in 1995, trying to figure out like what to do now that grunge has kicked them to the curb. What else going on there?
Well, okay, so yeah, that's a great way to contextualize it. It does work in that respect. I've always associated with those bands really, because I think we tried to do something that was desperately unfashionable at the beginning of our career, and it was a struggle, and I think that struggle is what we're talking about really. It's kind of like it never ends, there's always something, there's always some obstacles. Sometimes it's just your age, it can be anything, but I think for me it's like trying to exist and trying to have like an artistic endeavor in a world where the industry's they just move the goalposts all the time. I don't even know if we're trying to sell records now. What are we trying to do? Just sell tickets, or what's the idea? What does success look like? Do we even know what that looks like now? Is it social media numbers? Because that doesn't feel like success to me. Is it just, your rising stock? Is it getting photographed when you're coming out of the hairdresser in London? Does that count as success? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? So I think it's just like the bewilderment and like not really understanding what you're fighting for, but all you know is it's a fight, a constant fight. And then you have things like expectation and like your relationship with your audience. And do you want to sort of be a cult band? Do you want to service your existing audience, or do you want to try and think broader? Do you want to do interesting stuff? Do you want to do art? Do you want to do content? It's like unending. Like the internal dialogue is unending, and then like the stuff that we have to think about before we go and present these songs is like. So I wanted a song. I always try and do songs that are kind of like that talk about the artistic, or any sort of career in the arts is hard, I think, and probably even from your own point, I would imagine it's difficult for everybody, and the internet's made it way more difficult for everybody, because it's you don't know how to monetize, and that's obviously how you make your living. That's still the thing that counts. That's the one thing that hasn't changed, So I think it's kind of like parenthood, where there's just a huge percentage of that role is just work. It's just hard and it's challenging, and it's confusing, and you don't really know where you fit into the thing. You don't know what you are after a while. You don't know who to be there's just so many different faces that you have to wear. And I think there's the one little section of it that makes it worthwhile. And it's, in parenthood, it's just like, just to see the child turn into a human being, for better or worse, whatever those qualities or faults are, it's just a joy to watch it unfold, I think. And to me, that's performance, and making a record is the bit that makes it, that's the bit where you know what you're supposed to do, and it's comforting and it's fun and you're in the moment, and the rest of the world falls away. And then when that finishes, it's like, oh, fuck, here we go. Now what?
Right. I got to say, that song has a great guitar solo, and The Darkness has a whole lot of great guitar solos. And by that, like, my definition is, sure, there's flash, but the solo actually goes somewhere and doesn't overstay its welcome. And I know you did a Justin Hawkins Rides Again video about guitar solos like 3 years ago, but I was like, what are you looking for when you're putting a guitar solo into a song, or two guitar solos into a song?
Yeah. Sometimes when there's two, it's because my brother and I have totally different ideas about how to fill that space, and then we have to accommodate one another's vision. He plays the guitar in a way where he's making melodic choices that surprise me. So I think that's what I love about his playing. I think he's an amazing rhythm guitarist, and he doesn't often interfere with the lead stuff, because that's usually my job. But when he does, he sometimes comes up with, he just does things that I just would never have thought to do. So when I'm playing, it's that thing of, I think it's a bit like the piano approach, really. I'm looking for phrases and things that I haven't that I just can't place. Maybe there's a familiarity about them, and a lot of guitar solos are just like a collection of licks that you'll hear in a million other songs, and the building blocks of a guitar solo, quite often the same phrases that you might have one that's a Hendrixy phrase and then a Jimmy Pagey bit, and there are people that have contributed to that lexicon, I think, and then it's usually just a mishmash of those. But for me, it's something that's it's always got to have something melodic that you can sing along to that isn't necessarily the same as or can be inspired by what the lead vocal has done in the corresponding section, or maybe it's a whole new section. But I like it to be something that you can sing along to. I like some stuff where it's like, fuck, how did that? What were those notes? I like some bits that make you scratch your head, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's fast. It just means it's like weird choices. And I enjoy a bit of widdly stuff as well sometimes. Yeah, I've got to say I have a weakness for it. But whenever I start to build a solo, I usually start with the widdly stuff, because I know that's going to be the most challenging thing. You build up the sort of memory of that, and you know where that's got to go, where it will have the most power. Oftentimes, I reckon that's towards the end, and then there's a sort of triumphant lift out of it. But yeah, I think that it's just important to have something, 3 elements, has to be sing-alongable, surprising, and have like a little bit of familiarity where you're treading water, where just so you know it's a guitar solo, so it can't really be played on anything else, and with the same, and be as effective. That's more or less it, I think.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that like on this album, you were trying not to just have all songs where you're sort of like blowing out your voice at the top. I saw the Permission to Land tour last year and in 2003 actually, but Bowery Ballroom.
Nice. That was our New York show, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I was really impressed with like how well preserved your voice is. You were hitting all the falsettos. You kept the songs in the same key. What is the key to keeping your voice? Is it throat coat tea? What exercise?
No. Unfortunately, and there's going to be a lot of people disappointed by this. The key is really simple: sobriety. It's got to be that, because I'm smoking like a chimney some days, and it's like it doesn't make any difference. If anything, it adds a lovely warmth to the lower register, and that's definitely not a nice thing not a nice and responsible thing to say to an aspiring singer. But this hasn't made any difference. I did have some. I think there's sort of, if you try and add distortion to your voice in an unnatural way, and you don't know those proper techniques for bringing sort of folds over, and you can really do some damage. And I did have an issue with a polyp on my vocal cords, and so I went and had that removed, and the aftercare was at the Zurich Opera House, and there was a lady there called Barbara Bohe, who I always thank on every record. She's unbelievable, and she really showed me how to prepare for a gig in a much more targeted and efficient way. So it only takes me like 20 minutes to warm up now, where I was spending like an hour and a half thinking, no, I've got to keep warming up otherwise, but she showed me how to do it properly and how to warm down as well. I use Lax Fox tubes and water. You've probably seen singers doing that. It's like some sort of water resistance that stops you from blowing out your larynx before you go on stage. But I could actually probably do a gig without warming up, and I'd be all right now. Because I'm not trying to add distortion. It's just there, and it's like it sort of feels natural. And she's really helped me to sing from the right parts of my body. And obviously, there's anatomy and there's luck as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just luck. I think it's dumb luck in some ways. I've never had any Botox around my neck. I know that's hard to believe when you look at me, but I think I would never put anything in there that might paralyze anything. You have to have control and at the expense of, perhaps a more youthful looking neck, then I'd rather sound good.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy your YouTube channel, and I particularly loved when you did the episode about field music.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure what where the Venn diagram between the Darkness and field music is, but I'm dead center.
Right. So am I.
So I know that they toured last month. Did you get a chance to see them? Have they reached out to you or anything?
No, well, I reached out to them because I was very, like, since May, I changed producers on the channel, and I don't know whether you've spotted this, but I stopped doing clickbait titles, and I really I don't want to rely on that. If I want to try and use my channel in a different way, and traditionally YouTube comments can be a cesspool of negativity and horrible stuff. And I'm trying to sort of build a community that isn't like that. And one way that I think we were failing is by using clickbait, and I'd rather have lower numbers and nicer people. You know what I mean? That's how I want to do it. And so the field music one was a personal episode. I just wanted to show their music to a wider audience, really. I wanted to use my platform to help them because I think they're amazing. So I wrote to them beforehand to say, look, I'm going to put a clickbait title on this because I want more people to look at it. And I don't normally do it, but I wanted it to say, what is this shit?
Right.
So that people would go, yeah, what is this shit? And hopefully watch the episode, you know. Mm-hmm. And they laughed at that. And I think I will do like a long form thing with those guys because I just find their music really interesting, and I've got to know, I feel like I can see like bits of influence in places and really, really, I feel like I want them to answer my questions about whether I'm right about where they're getting their ideas from.
Right.
You know? I think that'd be really interesting for me, and maybe you as well. I don't know.
Yeah. I think our time is up, Justin. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Bill.
For me too. Thanks, Bill.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that Justin Hawkins interview from the recent Brooklyn Vegan Archives, and who knows, we might pull out a few more. We'll see. I'd like to remind you to be sure to check out our other podcast, BV Weekly, where my coworkers Dave and Andrew discuss the week's hot button music news, the latest releases, and more. Also, be sure to check out Brooklyn Vegan on social media, check out our online shop with exclusive vinyl, merch, and more. And if you like this episode, be sure to tell your musically minded friends about it, as well as do all those other things, you know, like, subscribe, write us a review, give us 5 stars, all that kind of stuff. It really does help us reach more ears. Big thanks to our mix engineer, Nick Gray, and Michael Silverstein for the theme music. I'm Bill Pearis. Thanks for listening.